Hello and welcome to Aligned Unfiltered. This is the podcast where we speak honestly about what it really takes to build a life and a business that aligns with a future version of you, the one that you keep saying that you're going to be. Expect self-help hacks and tools to be able to help you bridge the gap from where you are now to where you want to be. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to Aligned and Unfiltered. I am so grateful to have you here, and if you are watching it as well, then thank you so much. A lot has gone into the effort behind filming these and recording them, audio and video, so I am just very grateful to have you here. And today's episode is going to be a really good one. I think it's something that a lot of people need and a lot of people will definitely benefit from, and it's all about setting your boundaries. Now, specifically, I am going to talk about this with boundaries in business, but you can try and relate this to in any way that it helps you, because I think that boundaries are something that we can all struggle with and maybe feel uncomfortable, especially when it comes to setting them. So let's get started. So boundaries are very important. The reason why boundaries are so important is because they are what is going to protect you. It protects your vibe, it protects how you feel, it protects how you act as well. And boundaries can be an emotional thing, but they don't have to be. And I think that's what is really, really important, and what I'm trying to get across in this episode is a lot of the time when we are met with other people's boundaries as well, we can find that sometimes a bit confronting, sometimes a bit hard to take. And when it comes to then enforcing our own, we can also feel the same, or we can feel the same energy from someone else. So what I want to get really clear today is exactly why we have to have boundaries, how to enforce them, and how to also receive them as well. So boundaries are a way that you are going to protect yourself and look after yourself. Without boundaries, you will start to build resentment towards someone. And it's not the person's fault, it's actually your responsibility to put the boundary in place to be able to protect how you're feeling and stop that from happening, which then in turn stops the resentment. So boundaries shouldn't be seen as something that is negative. They should be seen as something quite positive, to be honest. Like I say, you're looking after yourself. It's not rejection of the other person. It's just simply how you have to run your business. So talking about this specifically from a business point of view, something that I have had to put in place for me with my business, with my salon in specific, is a cancellation policy. Now, a cancellation policy is something that when I've spoken about it in the past and I have, enforced it as well, it has been so uncomfortable. It has literally come about in like a physical way over me in how uncomfortable it can feel in enforcing it. And it just doesn't need to be that deep. It really doesn't need to be that serious, basically. So this is an example. In my salon, if you come to my salon and you book an appointment, you are notified when you book the appointment of a cancellation policy. The cancellation policy is simple. If you cancel an appointment within 24 hours, you will be charged 50% of the booking. If you don't turn up to the appointment, then you will be charged 100% of the booking. Now, we do caveat that with being a little bit, I suppose we blur the line maybe ever so slightly, and we want to be kind and gentle in our approach. If you have to cancel that appointment for whatever reason and we can fill it, then we don't charge the client. So that's something that we have just always had in place. This is something that we have had pushback on again and again and again. And we will probably always get a bit of pushback on it, if I'm completely honest. But the more we enforce it, the more it's known that that is something that happens in my salon and that you can't get past. And unfortunately, if you want to visit us, that is something that you have to agree with, and it is as simple as that. So we've enforced it by telling the client when we've sent that text message. But then let's say the client has to cancel the appointment. And all of a sudden, it's like they've never read the cancellation policy, they didn't know it existed, and they disagree with it. And they're like, I'm never gonna come back, I'm gonna write a bad review, I'm gonna tell all my friends about this is disgusting, my kid is sick, this is so unfair. So what I then do in the position of, if I'm the receptionist and I have to then go back to this client, the way that I reply is firm but fair. I understand that you are upset and that things happen out of your control. However, this is our cancellation policy to protect our business and our staff, and it's as simple as that. And basically what I've done in that situation is I have explained to the client, I know how you're feeling. I am sorry that this has happened to you. However, this is the policy. You were made aware of it when you booked your appointment, and I'm still going to enforce it. And this is where then, obviously, if we can, we won't charge you if we can fill the appointment. Now, I'm kind of a little bit like this with that, because I think that when you do have boundaries, they need to be really, really clear, and they need to be just drawn out as clear as possible before you go any further. And I think that by me saying, if we can fill the appointment, we're not going to charge you, to be honest, is that a good thing? I don't really know. I think that our clients appreciate it, but to be honest, by that point, they're often riled up and they don't appreciate it. So maybe it's something that we won't always continue with, I don't know. But I think something that you have to get really comfortable with when you are enforcing a boundary is that not everyone is going to agree with it. Not everyone is going to like it. Not everyone is going to understand it, but that is okay, because it is your boundary. And you can relate this to any way in your life as to how you're setting a boundary. It might be that you want to say to your team, you can't message me after 6 p.m, but they message you at 6:30 and you reply. Well, they're going to keep messaging you, aren't they? At 7, 8, 9 later, because you often get back to them. That's not actually their fault. That is your fault for not enforcing that boundary. And we're all a bit guilty of this, because we're like, oh, well, I was on my phone, so I just replied. Well, they're just going to keep doing that then. Unless you make it as clear as possible, draw that line of exactly what your boundary is, that's how you get people to start respecting it and start following by those rules that you have set in place. It doesn't mean that they're always going to like it, but it means that they respect it and they follow it. And that is as simple as that. Something that I think a lot of us need to get really comfortable with, which is very uncomfortable in the beginning, is you're not always going to be liked. Not everyone is going to like you, especially when you're enforcing your boundaries, but that is something that you need to become okay with. You can still be a nice person, a happy person, a generous person, an empathetic person, and enforce strong boundaries. Those two things can still go together. I used to think that by me having this strong cancellation policy, that meant that I was being a bit harsh or rude or not kind or, not aware of people's feelings, because that's what people were telling me that I was being like by enforcing this cancellation policy. When actually I took a step back and I looked at it and I thought, hang on a minute. I've just had to cancel my Pilates class within 20 minutes notice because one of my kids was sick and I couldn't leave. But I made peace with that, because they automatically just take the payment. They told me ahead of time, if you cancel within 12 hours, you don't get the money back. So I never once thought, I'm going to complain about that. I don't like that. No, I just paid for the class and didn't go. And then I booked my next class. So I thought, well, hang on a minute. Why am I so okay with it, but other people aren't okay with it when it's coming from the salon? Is it because it's more money than what a Pilates class might be? Yeah, maybe. But actually, I think what it is they're just not used to having people enforce the cancellation policy, a boundary, and having to stick to it, especially in Dubai. This is something that is quite specific to Dubai, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think a lot of people here struggle with being told no, and they struggle with people enforcing boundaries, and they struggle with then somebody complaining about it and not being able to get their own way. And that is something that as a salon owner over here, I have struggled with, because a lot of salons don't follow by the same rules. They, will let people cancel and things like that. But for me, that is a boundary that I have had to enforce and had to make so clear. And it was really, really interesting, because when actually we finished for last year, for 2025, I got all the figures together and I looked at how many cancellations we'd had and how many no-shows we'd had. In a year, I think we'd had 5 no-shows. Like, that is so low for a salon that is as big and as busy as mine in Dubai, with a lot of new staff. And the reason why I say new staff is because when you have a newer staff member, they haven't got that same, rapport or relationship with their clients. So their clients are more likely to just not turn up or, cancel last minute. But I think that was a really strong representation of that boundary that we have put in place as a business to our clients, and that they do respect it. And that is something that now, 4 years on, I have become a lot more comfortable with. And I have, I understand that people aren't always going to like it, but that isn't a reflection of that they don't like me or that they don't like my salon. They just don't like being told no. They don't like being told that there is a boundary here and you cannot cross that. So once you have decided exactly what it is that your boundaries are in your business, get really, really clear on them. And once you do it, there is no going back. So do not be like, oh, but this person, this happened, so, it's okay, I'll just reply at 10 p.m. because of this, or I'll just let this person off with the cancellation policy because of this. No. You have to stick to it, because by sticking to it, you are being kinder to yourself, and you are paving the way for how you want to work going forward. It's definitely not always easy, especially at the beginning. You can feel uncomfortable, you can physically feel uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the easier it will become. And you just have to keep telling yourself, this does not make you a bad person by enforcing this boundary. It's simply you respecting yourself enough to enforce it. So when you are enforcing a boundary, you really want to break it down clearly. So you don't want to over-explain it. You don't want to apologize for it. You just, if you have to repeat it, you just repeat it calmly. But you really want to follow through, and any inconsistency in that will kill the credibility, like what I just said. You have to stick to it. So an example of boundaries that I have had in place, for example, with my staff, are things like a respectful tone and professionalism. I have had staff members before where they might turn up to work and they're not wearing appropriate clothing, and I have to say to them, that's not appropriate in this salon. And it's an uncomfortable conversation. We both feel a bit awkward, but I have to say it there and then, so that then they understand this is what the rules are, and we have to stick to it. You might find that in your business, you could have boundaries which are more with your clients, and it could be that your clients are asking for more than what you actually offer them as a service. And again, if you are doing that, then that's not their fault, that's actually your fault. If you are a beauty therapist and you have a client who often gets a lash lift, but then while she's getting a lash lift, you just do her a little brow tint, doesn't really cost you much to do it, you like doing it, she's always really happy, so you just always do the brow tint. And then the next time you do a lash lift, you don't do the brow tint. Well, she's then a bit like, well, why has she not done my brow tint? I'm a bit pissed off now. When actually, it's your responsibility as the professional in that situation to say to her, look, I know I was doing your brow tint for you for free every time, but it's just not something that I'm going to keep doing. So if you do want to have a brow tint, then you have to book it in next time. It might be a little bit uncomfortable that first time that you say it, and the client might be a bit put out, but eventually they are going to understand and they're going to respect it, and then she will keep coming back to you, and then she will start booking in the brow tint. So look at what you want your boundaries to be, look at what you already have, but maybe you don't enforce it well enough, and just start to clearly put them in place and have no going back on them. So enforce them. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but just go with it. I promise you, you will not regret it, because ultimately at the end of it, you're going to be feeling better and more aligned with your business. I hope that you have loved that episode and got something from it. Please, please, please do everything that I always ask you to do. Like it, rate it, subscribe it, tell a friend, watch it on YouTube, please. And thank you so much for listening. I will see you next week. Bye.